Have you ever been left in a graveyard of silence? You gave someone everything. You showed up when no one else did. You forgave when forgiveness was hard. And the one person who should have acknowledged your heart chose to disappear instead. Not with words, not with an explanation, just silence. That silence ate you alive from the inside. You replayed the conversation 1,000 times in your head. You drafted messages you never sent. You asked yourself a question that never stopped burning. Did I do something wrong? And every single day the answer echoed back at you. No, you did everything right. You loved with everything you had. So why does it still feel like you lost? Here is what no one tells you about that silence. It was never about you being unworthy. It was never about you not doing enough. It was about someone who carries a wound so deep that your love threatened the wall they built around their heart. They did not leave because they stopped caring. They left because they cared too much, and that terrified them. But you are not here to understand them tonight. You are here because you deserve to stop carrying this weight alone. You are here because that apology you never got is sitting inside of you right now like a piece of broken glass. And every day you swallow that pain, you lose a little piece of yourself. You laugh less, you trust less, you lower your standards because deep down you started believing you did not deserve more. That is the real damage, not what they did, but what you have become because of it. Let me tell you something that will change everything for you tonight. The person who hurt you is not moving on because they found peace. They are moving on because staying still meant feeling something they have spent their entire life running from. And you are the proof of their fear. Every time they think about you, they feel the weight of what they did. And instead of facing it, they chose the shortcut. They chose silence because silence is easier than accountability. But here is what they never told you. Silence is not strength. Silence is survival. And the reason you are still hurting is because you never learned the psychological key that shifts everything in your favor. Not for revenge, but for your own freedom. You're about to discover the exact mindset shift that makes the person who abandoned you suddenly find the words they never gave you. Not because you chased them, not because you begged, but because you became something they never expected you to become. And when that happens, when they finally look at you and realize you have already won the war inside your own mind, something inside of them breaks, and the apology that has been trapped in their throat for months finally comes loose. But first, you have to understand the game you are playing. Because if you play it the way everyone else plays it, chasing, explaining, hoping, you will lose every single time. So stay with me until the end of this video, because what I am about to share with you is not just another piece of advice. This is a psychological blueprint that rewires how you show up for yourself. And when you walk away from this video, you will not be the same person who clicked on it. You will be the version of yourself that stopped waiting for their apology because you finally learned how to make them choose to give it. Let me take you inside their mind for a moment, because everything you have been carrying, every sleepless night, every unanswered question, every moment you questioned your own worth, it all started because you were trying to understand someone whose operating system was never designed to handle what you were offering them. An avoidant person is not cold by nature. They are cold because they learned early that warmth gets punished. Somewhere in their childhood, they discovered a brutal truth. The people who were supposed to love them unconditionally were the same people who made them feel unsafe. So, they built a fortress around their heart. Not because they wanted to keep you out, but because they did not know any other way to survive. When you came into their life, you represented everything they secretly wanted. You represented safety. You represented emotional depth. You represented someone who would stay. And for a brief moment, they let their guard down. They let you see parts of themselves they never showed anyone. That terrified them more than you will ever know. Here is what happens next in their mind. The deeper you connected, the more they started feeling like they were losing control. Every time you asked for closeness, their nervous system interpreted it as a threat. Every time you expressed a need, they felt trapped. Not because you were demanding, but because somewhere deep inside them, they believed that needing someone was the same as losing yourself. So, they did what they always do. They started pulling away, slowly at first, then all at once. They stopped texting as much. They stopped initiating plans. They created distance not because they stopped caring, but because getting closer to you meant risking the wound they spent their whole life protecting. And when you noticed and asked what was wrong, they did not have the emotional vocabulary to explain it. So they blamed you. They said you were too intense, too needy, too emotional, and you believed them because you did not know any better. That is the trap they set, and you walked right into it. Now let me tell you the part no one talks about. When an avoidant person leaves, they do not feel relief. They feel relief for about 24 hours. Then the guilt arrives. It sits in their chest like a rock. They know what they did. They know you did not deserve to be abandoned. They replay your face in their mind, and they feel the weight of it. But they cannot go back. Going back means admitting they were wrong. Going back means feeling the full force of an emotion they have spent their entire life avoiding. So, they stay silent. They move on. They throw themselves into work, into new people, into anything that keeps them from sitting still with what they did to you. And you are left wondering what you could have done differently. The answer is nothing. There is nothing you could have done differently because you were dealing with someone whose internal programming was designed to self-sabotage every good thing that came into their life. They did not leave because you were flawed. They left because your love exposed a part of them they were not ready to face. This is the psychological truth they never want you to understand. Your pain did not come from your weakness. It came from your strength. You loved openly and honestly, and that terrified them so deeply that they chose to walk away from something real rather than risk being truly seen. But here is what you need to hold on to tonight. Understanding their psychology does not mean accepting their behavior. It does not mean you should wait by your phone hoping they change. Understanding their psychology means you finally stop blaming yourself. It means you remove them from the center of your healing and put yourself there instead. Because once you truly understand how their mind works, you stop trying to solve a puzzle that was never solvable. You stop waiting for them to become someone they are not capable of being, and you start redirecting that energy towards someone who can meet you where you are. That is the freedom you are about to unlock in the next section. Let me show you exactly how to rebuild yourself from the inside out. Everything I told you in the last section was preparation. It was the foundation. Now we build the house. And this house is going to be stronger than anything they ever imagined you could become. Here is the truth that nobody wants to hear. You cannot control what they did to you. You cannot control whether they ever apologize. You cannot control the silence they left you in, but you have absolute control over the story you tell yourself about what happened. And that story is the difference between staying broken or becoming unbreakable. Right now, your mind is replaying their absence on loop. You are carrying their silence as evidence of your inadequacy. Every time you think about it, a small voice inside you whispers, maybe you were too much. Maybe you asked for too much. Maybe you should have been easier to love. That voice is lying to you. And if you keep listening to it, you will spend the rest of your life shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never big enough for you. So, we start with a decision. Tonight, you are going to choose yourself over their memory. Not because you do not care, not because you have forgotten, but because you refuse to let someone who walked away from you determine the quality of your life moving forward. That decision is the first domino, and once it falls, everything else follows. Now, I am going to give you the psychological shift that changes everything. Stop treating their absence as a question that needs an answer. Stop trying to decode why they left. Stop analyzing every moment you shared looking for the mistake that drove them away. There was no mistake. You did not fail them. They failed themselves, and they took the easy way out by blaming you for the space they created. When you stop trying to understand them, you stop giving them power over your daily thoughts. Your mind is a sacred space. Every moment you spend replaying their silence is a moment you stole from your own growth. So, claim it back. Take that mental energy and redirect it towards something that serves you. Your career, your health, your next chapter, anything. Here is the second part of the shift. Stop performing your pain for the world to see. Stop hoping that if you suffer loudly enough, they will hear about it and feel what they did. They will not. And even if they do, their guilt is not going to give you what you actually need. What you need is to know that you are whole without their validation. You need to know that your value exists whether they acknowledge it or not. That is the identity shift that commands respect without saying a single word. When you walk into a room knowing that what happened to you was never a reflection of your worth, people feel it. They feel the energy you carry. And the person who abandoned you, when they hear about the version of you that kept growing after they left, something inside them realizes they lost something rare. You are not trying to make them feel bad. You are trying to make yourself feel powerful. So how do you actually do this internally? You start by changing the conversation you have with yourself when you wake up in the morning. Instead of starting the day with their name popping into your head, you start with an affirmation that you choose every single morning. Something like, I am not broken. I am being rebuilt. My pain is not my identity. It is my origin story. And when the memories hit you throughout the day, because they will, you do not fight them. You let them pass through you like clouds in the sky. You observe the feeling without becoming the feeling. You say to yourself, I see this, I feel this, but this is not where my story ends. This is the internal work that transforms you, not overnight, but every single day, one decision at a time, one moment of choosing yourself over the ghost of who hurt you. That is how you rebuild, and when you rebuild, you become dangerous to the person who left you. Not because you want revenge, but because you become living proof that their absence could not destroy you. Now, I want you to understand something that will change the way you see everything that happened to you. The version of you that broke down after they left, the one who could not eat, could not sleep, could not function, that version does not exist anymore. You killed that version. You buried it. And from that grave, something much stronger emerged. Something they never expected. Something that works in your favor without you having to say a single word. Here is the psychology behind what happens next. When an avoidant person chose to walk away from you, they made a calculation in their head. They decided that their comfort mattered more than your feelings. They decided that silence was easier than accountability, and they convinced themselves that you would eventually stop hurting and move on like nothing happened. They expected you to shrink. They expected you to wait. They expected you to break, but you did not break. You became better. And that is the trigger that finally breaks their silence. Think about it from their perspective. They left someone they cared about because getting close was too terrifying. They chose the escape route every single time closeness became real. And they told themselves it was fine, that you would get over it, that they made the right decision. But then they start hearing things. They hear that you got promoted. They hear that you are thriving. They hear that you removed them from your life completely, and every piece of information they receive about your growth lands like a punch to their chest. They did not just lose someone who loved them. They lost someone who became powerful without them. That contradiction inside their mind becomes unbearable. They wanted to believe they were right to leave, but watching you grow forces them to confront the truth they have been running from. They destroyed something real because they were not ready to be real themselves. And here is what happens inside them emotionally. The guilt they buried starts surfacing. It stops being quiet. It starts screaming. Because they see you standing tall, walking with confidence, not chasing them anymore. And they realize that the window they thought would stay open forever has closed. You moved on. You grew. And they have to live with the fact that they gave up someone who turned out to be extraordinary. That is when they reach out. Not because you asked, not because you begged, not because you sent them a message explaining yourself, but because your transformation became louder than anything they could have said to silence it. When that message finally comes, and it will come, you need to be ready for it. Not to attack them, not to gloat, not to throw their silence back in their face like a weapon, but to respond from a place of complete emotional ownership. You tell them exactly how their actions made you feel. You do not yell, you do not cry. You speak with a calm certainty that shows them how far you have climbed since they left you in the dirt. You make them hear you without raising your voice. You make them feel the weight of what they did without begging for an apology. And then you decide. You decide whether they deserve a second place in your life or whether the answer is already written in everything you have built since they walked away. This is the moment you have been waiting for without even knowing it. The apology does not fix what broke inside you. Only you can fix that. But that apology confirms what you already know. You were never the problem. You were the opportunity they were too afraid to hold, and they have to live with that knowledge for the rest of their life. The closure you deserve is not waiting for their words. It is standing in the mirror every single morning, looking at someone who refused to be destroyed by someone else's fear. You won the moment you decided to grow instead of rot. You won.